I'm going to put it out there that this wasn't my best idea, but I need to get my 10,000 steps in. Yesterday was 32 degrees and short weather. Today might not be short weather. I've got nothing dry to wipe my lens on. My shorts are wet through. So this woodland on my right is called Lady Canning's Plantation, and I've driven past it and hiked past it dozens of times, and I've often thought, who was Lady Canning? But I've never bothered to actually find out who Lady Canning was until today. Oh dear, my nemesis. That's it, you lie down. Don't mind me. It's always scarier when there's a calf knocking around. So just like when I was at school, I'd done my homework half an hour before it was due in. Charlotte Canning was actually born Charlotte Stewart in 1817. As us commoners would say, she was born with a silver spoon in her mouth, daughter of Sir Charles Stewart, who was Baron de Rothesay, I think it's pronounced. It's bunging it down again. Look at this little beauty. 15 miles. Can't even see where it says. That one's Buxton, 17 miles. I don't know its history, but this is a lovely old byway. We need to go off piste a little bit, up towards the Oxstones and then back into Lady Canning's Plantation. You can just see the Oxstones on the horizon. They don't look like oxen to me, what do you think? Because apparently that's how they get the name. Keep going off script. Back to Charlotte. So she was primarily raised in France. My father was ambassador for France and later ambassador for Russia, and they came back to London in 1831. In 1834 Charlotte met the Honourable Charles Canning, son of the former Prime Minister George Canning, and the year later they got married. And a couple of years later Charles's mother died and he succeeded her as the second Viscount Canning, which also made Charlotte Viscountess Canning. This is all interesting stuff, but how do we get from Viscountess Canning to Lady Canning's Plantation? We'll have a quick look at the Oxstones and then we'll head into the plantation. Behold the giant Oxstones. These are big old lumps, aren't they? You can see all of the different layers of gritstone in there. So I've done quite a bit of research over the years on how these big old lumps were formed. Basically, all of this gritstone goes back to the Carboniferous period of around 300 million years ago, where all the sediment gets crushed together, formed into rock, and then the rest of it is all formed from erosion over the millions of years. But what's always confused me is why sometimes like this there's just one or two of them. Why aren't there loads of them that were scattered around? How come that these two, getting windy, are still standing? There's a big lump further behind there, a few smaller ones dotting around as well. If you know, then let me know in the comments. Was it because these were maybe even bigger and that's what's left of the erosion, whereas some of the smaller ones maybe have disappeared now? Gets me a few extra steps in. In 1842, Charlotte was appointed Lady of the Bedchamber to Queen Victoria, which is, I think it's like a personal assistant, helped her maybe get dressed, but they did lots of things together. I'll pop a picture up of they painted together on one of the trips that they did to Balmoral. She painted Balmoral Castle. But that's where the Lady Canning came from. Let's go and have a look at her plantation. Looks like the plantation's had a bit of a beating from the storms. It does get quite windy up here though, and this first layer of trees is going to be really exposed. I have to be honest with you, I'm not a big fan of plantations. The trees tend to be planted too close together. They're usually non-native species, and the woodlands themselves just don't look that healthy. I wouldn't want to come camping here with all these unstable trees. Which brings me on to another story. Lady Canning was actually more of a wild camper than I am. So after 13 years of service, she stepped down as Lady of the Bedchamber to Queen Victoria. Her husband Charles had been appointed Governor General of India. So that's where they headed. And to be honest, she didn't like it at all. She became lonely, felt isolated, and she passed most of her time doing drawings or paintings reminding her of home. So when they were travelling around India, they often had to stop off and spend the night in a tent. And en route to Delhi, they stopped at a place called Deeg. And this night in the tent, it was getting a little bit chilly and they had the stove on in there. And just after midnight, Charlotte awoke and the tent was ablaze. She cried for help. Instead of rushing out to escape the flames, she was scampering around trying to find her prized possessions. Her diary, her paintings, her jewellery. Kind of got me thinking, what would be the first thing that I reach for if my tent caught fire? It'd have to be my car keys, wouldn't it? Don't want to be walking home. Let me know in the comments, what would be the first thing that you'd grab for? By all accounts, Lady Canning did not like camping. In fact, in a letter she wrote to her mother, she says, "A tent is not pleasant, with the walls shaking, the dust coming in, and drafts kept out with the greatest difficulty. I like seeing new places and can bear anything, but cannot the least see the delights of camp life." I'd love to see her camping with good bloke outdoors. After 5 years of service in India, in 1862, the Cannings planned to return to London, and Queen Victoria had given Charlotte the role of Ranger of Greenwich Park. Charlotte was so excited to catch up with her old friend Queen Victoria, but unfortunately she never made it home. She contracted malaria and died in Calcutta in 1861. I have scoured the internet, I've been on loads of different local history forums trying to find out why this woodland is named after Lady Charlotte Canning, and it seems nobody actually really knows. Loads of people know who the plantation is named after, but the reason why is just a mystery. There are no direct connections to any of the aristocracy in the region, no connections with the Peak District. But it turns out there were lots of places like this were named after people just in their honour. So that is the theory that I'm going with and that other people have gone with. For all of her service to Queen Victoria, to her country, overseas, I think that's good enough reason really. We've just buzzed on the dot. What are the chances, eh? Hope you enjoyed the video. As always, thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next time.